What's up, guys? This is Ray J back with another video. And today I want to talk about what's happening with the broader markets, some big updates involving Donald Trump and his tariffs, what's going on with all these different charts, and some big data that just came out. Just know that nothing I'm saying is financial advice, so don't take anything that way. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total. And the offer ends at the end of March. Anyways, as far as Tesla and the market are going, I just want to mention that Tesla got a bit of a dip so far, and so did the broader markets after we got some negative data. We had the ISM manufacturing numbers that came out. The manufacturing PMI was below expectations. Employment for the manufacturing sector is showing some weakness, not the best of news so far. This is not necessarily a surprise as we're in a higher interest rate environment. And then you also have new orders showing some weakness. So this is forward-looking data that's showing weakness in this sector as prices remain elevated. So this is showing signs of higher inflation. New orders are slowing. A slowing in demand is still there, and not the best of news, at least for the markets to start things off. But in my morning video, I did mention to you guys that we had this possible inverse head and shoulders set up on SPY. Same thing with Tesla. We were expecting some kind of like dip move if we couldn't hold around that 300 area. And so far, that is what's basically happening. Now, despite this, we did get some good news, at least for Tesla. We did see Morgan Stanley say some very positive things about the share price. I will talk more about that maybe later on. And then simultaneously, we had some not so good news, right? If you look at Tesla's numbers, the European sales were not the best in February. If you actually go all the way down here, you could see that in total, for February of 2024, they had about 7,100 sales. And then if you look at like some of their main countries so far, we only got about 4,400 sales, at least thus far, at least according to our data, which is still a bit of a decrease in their sales overall. Now, I don't think all the data is out yet, but so far the numbers are looking relatively weak in the majority of these European countries. In France, for example, the sales are down quite a bit. So are the sales in Norway, and Denmark, Sweden, and Scandinavia. So I'll talk about more of these numbers maybe later on in my next video, but I just want to say that for now, there are some negative headlines about this. Despite this news, the next big factor is going to be Donald Trump. So Donald Trump said something very important in his videos. He mentioned that tomorrow night is going to be big. So he said tomorrow is going to be a very, very big day. Don't forget that tomorrow is going to be when he is scheduled to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico, not to mention additional ones for China. So that's very, very important. He mentioned this on Truth Social. So he is saying that tomorrow is going to be a night that's going to be very, very big. I will tell it like it is, according to Donald Trump. So could this be it? Is he officially going to be imposing these tariffs? How will this affect the markets? We'll have to see about this. He's also going to be giving a speech in front of Congress very soon. And I think he's also going to be speaking in front of the press within the next 1 to 2 days. So I just want to warn you all that even though the market has these setups, I would still be very careful with day trading because, with Donald Trump giving speeches, talking about tariffs, imposing them, it could be a little bit unpredictable sometimes. So you just want to be very, very careful. Anyways, as far as Tesla's going, so here's what's going on. If you look at Tesla and zoom out like this, you will see that we had this very, very big channel that Tesla was downtrending on for many, many months. So if you go back to like December 18th, we've been downtrending since then, making lower highs and lower lows. Now, despite that happening, Tesla's been trying to bounce for the last 2 days. We did call this out, and now we're testing this trend line again. This yellow trend line is previous support becoming resistance, and you can see Tesla's kind of shuffling around this area. We did see a dip to about 292. We bounced a little bit, and we're shuffling right over here at this resistance. So with that being said, the question now remains, and we're going to be waiting for this as time goes on, can Tesla reclaim 302 and 305? If we reclaim that, we could be looking for a bounce. If we hold above 305, I think we'll have the potential to try to fill this imbalance and start pushing a lot more to get closer to about 320. However, if we do something that's very different, if we end up continuing to fall and Tesla ends up losing this support right here, I'm going to be looking around this like 292 area. We're going to be at risk of dipping again. Now, this depends on Donald Trump, what he ends up saying, his tariffs and factors like that. But for now, we are showing lots of resilience as Tesla's in the green, and we got some good reports from Morgan Stanley. So I will make another video later on where I'm going to talk about the news involving Tesla. I think that's going to be my second to last video of the day. I want to start doing that a little bit more because there's so much news to decipher and there's very limited time for me to talk about it. So just keep that in mind. That's what the setup we're essentially looking for. This could be an inverse head and shoulders on Tesla. So I do see some upside potential in this setup. If we could try to break past our resistance and hold above this support, there is potential for this to pan out. So we'll see. Just to be safe, make sure you watch your levels. Can Tesla try to break past our 20 EMA, or do we end up losing support? I'll be watching that as well. As far as SPYs going, I'm seeing a very similar setup. So if you zoom out, right, if you look at this, we have a potential inverse head and shoulders as well. We have this chop zone between, or maybe not a chop zone, maybe like an area of liquidity, an area of interest between 590 and like 598. You could see we hit 590, bounced, came back down, bounced, saw one big dip, came back into this range, pushed, and then dipped. So there's a nice range right here. I do see a possible inverse head and shoulder step that could lead to more upside. So far, the odds do favor a bounce in the markets soon. But before the bounce comes, before we get some like major bounce off this possible inverse head and shoulders, the question is, will we see a big dump first, one more big move to the downside, depending on what Donald Trump says, and then bounce? Or will we just hold this low and start bouncing from here? I'll be watching that very closely. So make sure you watch 590 as our support. If that fails us, we're going to be at risk of returning to about 587.5, eventually back down towards these lows if that fails us. If we hold above 594, we're looking for a rebound for essentially 598. I think the setup right now suggests the possibility of an inverse head and shoulders. Once again, I do lean a little bit more in favor of this, but we'll see just to be safe how low we go and what happens with Donald Trump's tariffs. Once again, I can't predict everything, guys. I have to be very honest about that. It's a very, very volatile time for the markets. For the QQQ, the triple Q, we have something else going on. We have these imbalances over here, which I think is a good sign. Also notice that we had a low down here at 496. We came up, we're trying to make a higher low. So can we hold this low during this dip? I want to see if we can hold this low before we try to make a rebound attempt like this to get back up towards this 518 area. There is potential in this, but it all depends on the tariffs. So we'll see. The support to watch for is going to be around this like 505 area. If that fails us, I'm looking for a move closer to the low 500s. As long as we can hold that, there's going to be a very, very nice like bounce attempt. So we'll see about that. On the Russell 2000, very similar setup. Like I'm also seeing this like a left shoulder, a head right here, maybe like a right shoulder. But that depends on if we can try to break resistance. I want to see us break like 218 to really start pushing. If we lose this trend line right here around this 210 area, I will become concerned. So we're just barely in this range right now. We're just range bound. There could be a bounce if we break resistance, so I'm still waiting for that. For ES, I'm seeing a very similar setup. We also happen to have a nice development right over here with this inverse head and shoulders. I would like to see us break past 6,000 to really start pushing. That would look a lot better if we could try to do that later on. But before we break 6,000 to turn bullish, it's very possible we get another dip. Consolidation in this range before it tries to break out like that. So we'll see if we consolidate in this range. I don't want to see us lose 5,900. As long as we're above that, we're going to be okay. If we lose that, it's not going to be a good sign. We could be dipping to this imbalance towards 58.50 again. So watch those levels just to be safe, depending on what Donald Trump says and etc. I am hoping for the inverse head and shoulder setup, but we're just waiting to see what the announcements will be. NQ has potential. We have like an inverse head and shoulder setup as well. We're looking pretty promising. We'll see if we try to break past 21,000 to bounce for 21,288, which is where we have this imbalance. If we turn down and lose 21,750, though, there's going to be a risk of us returning to 20,500. So it could go either way. We're kind of in the middle. This is showing a little bit more weakness. So it's just choppy right now. Give this a little bit of time to develop. It's in the middle between supply and demand. For Bitcoin, we're looking for the 88,000 area. I mentioned to you all we should be testing that. We'll see if we bounce. If we don't bounce off 89,000, then we're looking for essentially 87,400 as support. So we'll see if we bounce off one of those levels. So watch the levels very closely. As far as Nvidia goes, there's a little bit of weakness here. We are getting very close to these lows. We have to see if Nvidia could try to hold right over here. I think they had some bad news that came out involving involving some exports. I'm not going to talk about that yet. I'll probably talk about that in my next video. But just know that we are dipping a little bit right here. We're going to be watching to see if we could hold the support at around 117.5. We have to see if we can make a higher low or not. If not, we could be dumping to 114.8. So just be careful. Once again, Tesla is continuing to shuffle in this range. We'll see if the inverse head and shoulders like patterns plays out or not. We're just waiting for some big announcements. So I'm going to be waiting to see. what I would do is I'd wait to see if we get a breakout first before trying to play this. I'd rather wait first instead of just trying to YOLO anything, because this is a very risky time. Apple's just shuffling around this like 240 to 242 area. If 240 fails us, we could be tipping to 238. Otherwise, we could be looking for a bounce here if we hold support. I do like the fact that we're trying to hold this yellow trend line right here. Right, we bounced like 2 times off this. That's a good sign. So it's looking promising, but I want to see it try to break 242 and hold up. So far, Apple has potential. For AMD, we're bouncing, as I was talking about in my morning video. We could attempt to get to 103, but like I said before, it's just a temporary move. Not saying this is going to last forever. On coin, I mentioned that if we ended up losing 230, look for a dip to fill this gap. Lo and behold, we came down to fill almost the entire gap. So we were correct based off our level. Amazon was trying to push, it's trying to reject. We got some bad news that came out. So I just want to make it very, very clear that we're looking at the support around this 208 area to see if that holds. We also have resistance at 215. We're kind of stuck in between those levels. I think that, by the way, I think that we're just going to dip a little bit more towards that 208 area. And then we might just kind of shuffle for the time being. We're just waiting for the tariff news. Meta is range bound. If we break 682, we're bullish. If we lose 658, we could be dipping closer to like the 630s, like 630. 638, I believe. So be careful, guys. We're in a range right now. We're just waiting for this news. We're just completely stuck right now. We're just waiting. Microsoft has a possible inverse head and shoulder setup, but we need to break past, first off, 400 and 404.5. We got to break those to turn back up. If we end up losing 390, we could turn back down, but I think that the inverse head and shoulder select setup has potential here. Google also has potential for an inverse head and shoulder setup. I want to see us break past 175 first, so we'll see about that. But overall, it's showing some resilience. So as long as you don't lose 170 to 168, this could try to bounce. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, so as far as the market's going, Tesla's showing some strength. I would like to see it break 302 to look even better, but for the time being, despite the fact that Tesla is trying to like hold up right now, I do want to give you guys a warning to be careful. Donald Trump could be making some big announcements about his tariffs, and this could be affecting things. And I'll keep you guys updated in case something happens. But until I see you guys again, I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great rest of your day. I'll be back with maybe I'll give you guys a news update very, very soon. And then after that, I do want to do my typical afternoon updates. Until then, I just wish you all the best. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll be back with another upload very, very soon. Thank you for listening, and peace out.